right, we're going to do a quick check here on Facebook. Make sure we got everything working okay. Give me just a second here, peoples. Making sure we got some video and audio. All right, so there we go. We'll get IG fired up here too. Then we'll get going here. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Kind of a gray Saturday here in Minnesota. This is the Ask a Painter live show. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my over 2 decades of experience. I'm now in my 29th year of doing something in this trade to answer any of your questions. And if I don't have the answers, the people who watch this show certainly do. This is a heck of a good community that I've learned a lot from over the last 5 years. So today is going to be an open show. So any question, any topic, anything you guys want to talk about, list it down here below. Aaron, how's it going, man? All right, hold on a second. Aaron's saying no sound. I just did a check. Give me 1 second here. Let me fire this up. All right, folks, give me just a second. I don't want to get too far into this without sound. Let me know if you can hear me out there. All right, come on, Ask a Painter, go to my own page. All right, hold tight, folks. We're getting there. This trade to answer any of your questions. All right, looks like I got sound coming through. So, all right. Okay, folks, so today, open show, any question, any topic. So go ahead, blast away. Anything you guys want to talk about. I got my hit list today. I'll give you some updates about what's been going on in my company, things like that. I see the questions coming in from Instagram here too. So before we get going, I do have to mention the PCA. PCA has some awesome things going on, the Painting Contractors Association. There's this cool little mini virtual conference, free to members. If not, go to their website and sign up. There's going to be some awesome speakers. I will also tell you that a survey about resuming in-person events just went out. So if that's an indication that we may be doing some fun stuff in the near future, that's awesome. Also, again, the thoughtful people, the wisdom that's shared in this show from people watching, from all the participants and everything else is directly mirrored in the PCA. So again, I'm going to talk about some things today that I'm working on in my business that basically were either sparked by other people in the industry, shared with me years ago, all this good stuff. So if you like this type of conversation, this thoughtfulness, this mindfulness about what we do, there's a lot of people in the PCA that share this stuff. So yeah, so first off, interestingly enough, we have something in Minnesota called the Gathering of Minnesota Painters, GOMP, G-O-M-P. If you are a painter and you live in Minnesota, there's a Facebook group called Gathering of Minnesota Painters, and we are going to start meeting in person again. It's probably been about 6 months. We have an awesome Facebook group with a couple hundred people in there that share all that knowledge on a super hyper local level. And we're going to resume getting back together now. So I think we're going to have an informal meetup just to kind of kick the tires on this again. And then we'll resume our sort of underwritten, our sponsored events where, Sherwin, Hirschfields, Graco, and Titan host us and things like that after that. So if you're not a member of that, I would urge you to do that. Aaron Steininger, interestingly enough, had a hand in starting the Ohio version of that group. Now, this is not a franchise. This is not a sort of thing like this. This is just grassroots level people coming together on a hyper local level, just getting together, sharing knowledge, things like that. So Aaron is part of Gathering of Ohio Painters, which is one of the coolest groups ever, Goop, which is really great. I love that. And they had their first meeting this last week, and I was super humbled to ask to be there and just sort of like share some wisdom with them. And it was a great group of people. You had the underwriters there. It was a great venue, and congratulations, guys. It's just wonderful. So, all right. So let's get through to, I got my hit list of topics, but I'm going to take your questions. So let's see. All right, man. Thanks for watching, everybody, on Instagram and Facebook here. Miguel, it's 6:03 a.m. where I'm at. I'm assuming you're West Coast. So I try to hit this good because, again, folks, family time. Friday for me is family time. Saturday and Sunday is family time. And I used to do this show Friday at noon. I still may go back to it once in a while. But the Saturday morning, I hate to cut into this family time. But honestly, painters aren't painting and we can actually interact more. So I kind of like it. So we're going to keep going. But I try to pick a good, convenient time. 8 o'clock here in Central Time Zone puts it at about, 9 o'clock Eastern out on the Eastern, and then about 6 a.m. on the Western. So I might switch that up a little bit later. We may do like a 10 a.m. show so the West Coasters can do an 8 a.m. show with us sometimes. But thank you, guys. Fresh Paint, Slow on Instagram, your go-to interior nail hole filler. I'm going to give you guys some perspective here. So for years and years and years, for a decade, all I used was all-purpose drywall mud and sometimes even lightweight mud. I would mush it in there with my finger, mound it up a little. It sands easy. I didn't really have any dimples, any shrinking, anything like that. It's great. And, some people will say, well, it's just drywall mud. But if it's just a nail hole in a baseboard on a piece of trim, it's very unlikely that somebody will take a fingernail and gouge into it like that. If you're doing large filling, obviously you want to use either a auto body filler, a wood filler, a 2-part system, something like that. But that's what I've used for years. Now, when we do whole house remodels, when we do new construction, things like that, we use kind of the 3M patch and primer in one. Again, there are products that probably perform a little bit better, but the hallmark of my business and what we're creating here is simplicity. We're made up of people who haven't been in the trades for 29 years like me. We need to make it simple. What we don't have is 9 different fillers that you have to mix in a certain ratio and this and this. We use 3M wall patch and primer for the walls, for the trim, for everything like that. And it's simple because there's one thing, people know how to use it. You can't mess it up. We don't get shrinkage. It sands easy, beautiful finish. We prime over the top of it and then 2 coats of trim enamel. Thanks, Fresh Paint, Slow. Optimus Painting, quick question, solvent or water-based paint for trim? Personal preference, yes. Interestingly enough, this has changed over the years. Then I'll get to some Facebook questions. So I was tried and true solvent. As a matter of fact, I have my iBrush Elkin shirt on today, a present from my good friend Zach Kenny. I love oil paints, and 30 years ago, 20 years ago, when I was practicing the trade, you could go down to Sherwin-Williams or even your hardware store and get a gallon of flat oil interior wall paint. And that was just that. Oil paint was just prevalent. It was around. It was really good. We used to oil stain the living daylights out of Cedar Homes here in Minnesota, like old Cabot solid oil stain, things like that. It lasted forever. Oil has fallen off a cliff. Either people aren't putting the R&D money into it more. They know that it's going out. You can see what's happening on the East and West Coast. It's already being phased out, and it's only a matter of time before it hits Minnesota. So I used to love, my God, for the people who've been around long enough, remember the old Satin and Pervo, the red can, the oil. That stuff was one of the most beautiful, sophisticated, smooth products you'd ever put on in your life. You could brush that stuff on and it would look better than almost any trim project that I see people spraying today. It's not the same anymore. If you go get a gallon of that stuff, and again, this is just my personal opinion. I don't know if it's backed up by anybody else. Maybe it's my region. Maybe it's just a whole bunch of weird circumstances. If you get a can of that stuff nowadays, it's not the same. It's way shinier. It doesn't level out as well. I assume that has something to do with the changing ways that manufacturers create oil paint and things like that. But I prefer water-based nowadays. And if you can get urethane-y, if you can get some resins in there that aren't just, latex and butyl and things like that, it's good. So we use oil primer, and then we use Benjamin Moore Scuff X on the trim now for our trim and cabinets. I would go to a water-based primer in a second if one could stick as well as oil primer, stop tannin as well as oil primer, and sand as well. So right now we use a water-based on there. I know there's a whole host of all sorts of fancy stuff, all the Italian imports, all the coatings that have been kind of merged in from industrial and product finishing. We use that because it's beautiful, it's hard, it exceeds our clients' expectations. It's great for our apprentices to use. And personally, I think it's super good. I mean, this whole house is finished with that stuff, and it's a super sophisticated looking finish. I like it. So, all right, one more IG, and then we'll go over to Facebook. Oh, man. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, paint school, rip old and purple. That's right, man. Optimus, any experience using Renner? So yes, I've experimented with the whole host of Malaysia, Ilva, Renner, all this and that. It's good, man. It's good. The problem is it surprises you every once in a while, and it's still not a straightforward thing. People are still kind of experimenting with it. It's new to the market. Some people have enough reps in to know what's going on with it, but when you start having to put in crosslinkers, reducers, thickeners, this and that, it's one more variable that I don't like to add to the people in the field. We are already exceeding most of our clients' expectations when it comes to fine finishing, the trim and the cabinetry. And something would have to be so much better, so much easier in order for us to switch our entire system that it's fine. They're good. But it's just to the point where for my business, for what we're doing, and for the people that we employ, we have a great system right now. And this isn't a judgment call saying that those are inferior to that. It's just saying there's other things that we all have to focus on with this stuff. And number one for me is client expectation. And we're exceeding that already. So again, if you're going to mess with that, there can be no surprises. You can never get a crackle. You can never get a fisheye. You can never get a this and that. My system, we don't experience that ever. We just don't. It's just a thing that doesn't happen. The other thing that nobody talks about all these coatings is logistics. The problem is we get multiple deliveries to our shop every week because of the buying power we have and the amount of materials we go through. It is very likely we will spend $250,000 to $300,000 in paint and sundries this year. And because of that, logistics and a supply chain is very, very important to us. We need to have a ready supply of reliable things that they're never going to run out. Don't have to use any weird hand tinting machines, that will always be there, because the client, the house, the weather, the employees, those are all variables. We do not want to add other variables to that. So that's basically how we think about it. Yeah, but there's other factors in there based on that. So, all right, let's go to. All right, which oil product? I assume the cutting edge painter. We use Cover Stain oil primer. Optimus, US has slightly different Renner products compared to Europe. We can't get the fine paints of Europe. Oh yeah, definitely. Which is really interesting. Europeans can't get fine paints of Europe stuff, which is always kind of like puzzled me. Not puzzled me. It's always very ironic to me anyway. So all right, let's go to Facebook and get some questions here. All right. Lacey Joe Bellino, we love the PCA. So do I. There's lots of fun stuff going on. Sean Buckingham, I believe, who's a fellow Minnesota painter here with me, interested in the value of the PCA membership, also how to strengthen field training. My background is in project management and estimation, not the best practice in field techniques. This is the weakest part of the business. Yeah. I hear you, man. This is always tough. You got to get somebody who knows your standard operating procedures, and you have to train them to be a trainer. You have to teach them the methods of training. It's not as simple as just stand here and absorb from somebody else or watch them do it. It's sort of, Sean, if you look up the teaching method called Doragi, D-O-R-A-G-I, you're going to test my memory here, but it's demonstrate, observe, redemonstrate, assess. But it's basically, this is the system that we can follow, but it's broken down into different words. Doragi is the thing that you can search for on the internet. You show them what it looks like. They observe. You redemonstrate. Then you give them a goal set, and then you check that goal. And so it's not just as simple as, hey, let's do this together. It's, I'm going to show you what this looks like. You give them the holistic picture of this. They do some together. Then you redemonstrate to kind of bump their skills a little bit. You give them a goal to say, hey, we're going to prep this test room in 45 minutes. Here's what has to happen. You got to tape this room in 15 minutes. I'm going to come check on you in 15 minutes. And then you do that. So, but yeah, having SOPs, number one, creating training process to meet those SOPs. And then one of the most important things is accountability, making sure people are doing the SOPs. Terrence, good morning from Ohio. I was just in Ohio a couple weeks ago doing some training with somebody. Chris Sherris, good morning. Brad Ellison, I'd like to hear more about PCA. I'll hit you up this week. Absolutely, man. What's interesting is that the PCA has been going like crazy in the last couple of years. One of the biggest benefits, and this might be just me personally, my opinion, but one of the biggest benefits of the PCA for me is the in-person events. And obviously those have not been plentiful in the last year. So I will say, it's interestingly enough on this phone, I would pick my phone up and show you right now, but we're broadcasting to Instagram too. 5 or 6 years ago at my first PCA event, I was a fresh face painter. I was at that time, maybe had some employees back home. And I went to my first big expo, 1,000, 2,000 people there, whatever. And went through all the things during the day. You know, it's all the things you hear of. Drinking from a fire hose, so much information. You get to talk to somebody who's got an $18 million painting company, 200 employees. You're just like, well, I mean, things you've never knew existed before. And their willingness to share is wonderful. On this phone, I was taking Google Notes when, I won't say his name because I don't know if he wants to be put on blast or not, but there was one evening, this person and I found ourselves at a bar until the very early hours, and he was laying knowledge on me like I've never heard before. He runs a company probably 4 times bigger than mine. And at that time, it was infinitely bigger than mine. And this person took an entire evening when he could have been hobnobbing with people in his own sort of business demographic or doing something else. He dropped the knowledge on me. He said, here's how I think about this. Here's my goals in life. Here are the books I've read. Here's the crappy books I've read. Here's the good books I've read. Here's the people I look up to. Here's the things I like about other people I look up to. Here's how you should think about this. Here's what family life looks like. Here's how you treat employees. Here's what a leader is. And I still have those notes on my phone from 5 or 6 years ago, and I reference them often. It's a really interesting thing. So Bradley, just like that, I mean, that's the sort of ethos of the PCA is building better contractors like that. And boy, the people in there do not disappoint. So, Lacey, I wish Illinois did something like that. It'd be interesting. Oh, so all you got to do is, interestingly enough, GOMP and Goop and all these gathering groups like this is just grassroots stuff. There's nobody dictating any of this stuff. All you got to do is start a Facebook group and start inviting some of your local people, tell them to invite local people. And all of a sudden you got the group. When you got your people in your Facebook group starting to talk amongst each other, then you say, hey guys, why don't we meet up at wherever else? And let's just get together and actually meet each other once in a while. So not complicated in the least. So I want to have my own trainer, Tina. How do you compensate her for additional workload of training? We do compensate her additionally, but it takes a person with a special personality type to do that. Now, you do have to set the compensation plan up a little bit different for a trainer in that they're not going to be hitting budgets all the time necessarily. That is the goal, but they won't always do it. So you do have to tie their compensation to the performance of the apprentice. In our apprenticeship program, there's 4 sort of benchmarks they have to hit over the course of a year in quarters. And we have goal setting and review meetings quarterly to coincide with those. And basically, if that apprentice sort of goes through those things, that trainer that's something that you could rate that trainer on, because they're not going to kill every budget with brand new people on the job. So not always. That is the goal though. Can you talk about the SW product that compares to ScuffX? Have you used it? Yes. Cody, I have used Tough Scuff in the shop. I think we did it, I don't know, maybe a month or 2 ago, like that. Yeah, great product. As advertised, it dries quickly, super easy to apply. They only gave me eggshell. I'm hoping to get a different shine version. I'm hoping they have a satin. I know they have a semi-gloss, I believe. And the only feedback that I gave them was, yes, tough coating, awesome. We did it in the shop. We had the people from Sherwin here and we showed them and all that other stuff. It's good. The only feedback I had was, I don't know if it's even good or not because they only gave me the eggshell, but I was worried that it would succumb to the emerald trim urethane satin, which was a very dull satin compared to something that, you know, we would use otherwise, that demands a little more shine. It's not the stereotypical satin. So I was querying, I said, hey, you know, I would really like to see a satin or a semi-gloss version of this just to see how you guys rank those shines again. But the eggshell version is awesome and I would use it on a wall in a second. But what I like is not always like, it's not price ever, because paint is a very small portion of what we do. It's ease of application, no witchcraft, which means there's no surprises. I did the application of spraying it on cabinet doors, which is one use you can do it. I'm guessing the prescribed use, if Sherwin could wave the magic wand and say, we would rather have you use it for this, I'm guessing it's probably better suited for institutional walls and trim and things like that. Probably mostly walls. Like if you have a big factory, if you have an office building, I'm guessing that's the highest use of a product like that. So yeah, great product though. Oh man, Terrence, any tips on doing aluminum siding from the 50s, particularly what kind of primer? Look at this. This is chalked up. This is chalked up in my queue of things to talk about. Steel sheds. So this is a steel shed that we restored this last year. This is a before picture. I love this. So this is something that I've geeked out on over the last 20 years because in rural Minnesota here, we have tons of these things. These, we call them pole barns, pole sheds, outbuildings, sheds, you know, whatever. And there's tons of these out there. Farmers love these things. They're replacing the old kind of wooden barns and things like this. So I just talked to a high school friend who is actually a TV host now in the automotive world, and he has a shed like this in his yard. Yesterday, we talked about it on the phone, and I gave him the two options I give all my clients, which is there is a 2-coat system and there is a 3-coat system. A 2-coat system is good. If you have 10 of these buildings on a farm, you may want to stick to a 2-coat because it's going to save you a lot of money. 3-coat system is the Cadillac. A 2-coat system would be something like this. I've done many, many versions of this. I always prefer to have 2 coats, the last 2 coats on something be the same thing, only because humans are fallible and you will miss things or you won't get an even coverage and this and that. So I've done versions of this. I've even done industrial buildings in this town here of 2 coats of Duration Flat. It's a great product. It sticks to tin like crazy after washing and scrubbing, of course. It's awesome. It just works very well. If you've never tried it, do a scratch test. It works great. The next system you can do is like a DTM finish, like a semi-gloss. Most semi-gloss industrial finishes are more of a satin. So I've done 2 coats of DTM on this stuff too. That works great. The secret is doing a scratch test on this stuff and making sure you don't go crazy with the color. The sheds that last the longest are white. They attract less heat. You can't tell when they fade, when they do eventually fade, and they're just less prone to other stuff. If you do like navy blue versions of these buildings like this, they're going to fade very quickly because they attract heat like crazy. So the Cadillac system of this is either chromic primer, which is an industrial primer from Sherwin, or a DTM bonding primer, a water-based. I believe there is a Shercrill primer as well. That's a hybrid-y sort of thing. Either 3 of those things will work, but the Cadillac system, you can then use any 2 top coats, but the finest system I've ever used for this stuff, and I should say this, Terrence, you can do this for 1950 steel siding as well. This is all applicable on houses, is Shercrill HPA. That stuff is, I feel like there's lots of science in that stuff. It's a sort of like, it's a malleable surface. It feels, if you've ever been on one of these farms when it's a 52-degree morning with heavy dew and you hear the sun come out, that tin, when the sun hits it, will actually expand to the point where you can hear it popping and moving. And this product will actually move kind of with it. And I did a whole farm, probably 6 of these buildings, 120 foot long, years and years and years ago with this stuff. We used 1,000 gallons of this stuff. And it still looks as good as the day I put it on. So that's a Cadillac system. Now, it's a lot of product. It's a lot of time, but at least you can offer your clients some things here. Best top coat for cabinets. This is a personal opinion. I like all the Italian imports, the industrial product finishes, the 2Ks that everybody's using now. Fine, good. But there's a whole host of other stuff out there that's really good. Right now for our company, we use Cover Stain and Scuffex. Danny, how's it going? Cody, yeah, it's a great system. And listen, this is not me saying this is the end all and be all. It's better than everything else. I'm saying it is one tool in our tool box. And if you guys have not tried a system like that, I would do it. It's a great data point here. So, all right. Jamie Ness, you provided a link. I cannot open the link. That's okay. Is this the patching stuff you mentioned? Sorry, you'll have to, at least in my live stream thing, I can't pull that up right now in my app here. So let's see. Ryan Gorel, what paint would you recommend for stairs? Are you talking railing, banister system, or treads? Stairs, I treat trim and cabinets all the same, oil primer and Scuffex top coat for now. Otherwise, for stair treads, I've gone back and forth over this stuff. Scuffex is good. I've used Sherwin Treadplex. I've used, all sorts of stuff like that. And the problem is there's not an end all and be all, because a paint is only going to be so scuff resistant and so tough. You're going to have to tell people to have a reasonable expectation for maintenance down the way, because people will do stairs in, either a dark color or a light color, and they're both going to show wear. Almost nobody paints their stairs brown, which would hide a lot of stuff. So yeah, let me know. And if you can expound on that a little bit. I have some bleeding through rattle can pro block. Yes, use the shellac. We have standard carry in my company is cover stain rattle cans and Upshot. I believe it's a Zinsser product, Upshot. It's made for like sealing water stains, but it's basically just pigmented shellac. Not a big fan of pigmented shellac, but it does a perfect job with that stuff. So, how do you deal with racist comments about your crew? Oh, that's interesting. I mean, if people are saying racist things about my people, I don't hear it. We did have one person who was a little elderly on our crew years ago who used some bit of language that could be problematic, and we sat him down right away and we counseled him, and we basically just said, don't do it again. That was internal. But that was somebody coming from old school, and it's not something we stand for. So no, I love the simple basics. Scott, oh man, first watched live. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate this. Oh boy, we got Noah Cantor here. Here we go on the 4-day work week. Oh, love Noah Cantor. Advice from a Young Tradesman podcast. Go listen to it now. It's much better than this show. It's hard to stay disciplined on it sometimes. Say you're on an exterior and you get rained out Tuesday, Wednesday, no Friday. You're on an interior halfway from being done by the end of the day Thursday. And the client's house is taken apart, no half day on Friday. I love the idea. I can see a lot of situations where we would be pressured to meet exceptions. Yeah, and Noah, these are all the things that I had tracked about a 4-day work week as well. So you will run into the same thing you do on Thursday night as you do Friday night, which is a lot of our kitchens are right on that 4 to 5.5 day finish time. And you will run into the same amount of Friday night things where it's like, oh, we just got another 4 hours of work left. Oh, the house is taken apart. That doesn't change when you go to you don't get rid of those working a 5-day work week. You still run into those awkward transitions. A 5-day work week does not provide you with a beautiful stoppage every Friday where you leave the client in perfect condition. So yes, about the rain day thing too. Rarely. What we do in the summer is once in a while, we'll say, listen, if it is one of those things where it's a clear rain day, we will move you. But honestly, what we've been doing to try to do a favor to our painters is let's say we have 12 crews working in the summer. We will have probably 3 on interior projects, maybe 4 to 6 outside, and then 1 unscheduled, and then maybe 1 in the shop, give or take, just kind of floaters around there. We will always have 1 to 3 big interior projects going so that if we need to flex in 2 crews, we can do that and still maintain productivity. Now, yes, You could say, hey, Wednesday is a rain day. Sorry, come in Friday. That's not ideal. So we really try to say, listen, it is what it is. There's pros and cons of this sort of thing. I'm actually, there will be a show coming up shortly with the 4-day work week stuff, Noah, where I'll go through all this stuff. But all the things that people think could never happen, they're like, well, the most interesting question and the simplest question I always get is, well, how do you even run a company off a 4-day work week? And it's like, we just work 4 10s instead of 5 8s. And then people are like, oh, I thought it was kind of a simple concept, but yeah, it just is what it is. So no, Noah, full show coming up on that. But I will say, people always think about the downsides of it. What if you could offer yourself and your people 50% more time off than anybody else they know? That's what you're doing. Most humans have 2 days off a week. You're offering them 3. That's 50% more time off than anybody they know. You're only asking them to come in to work 16 days a month, give or take. And what is also helpful, Noah, and I'll tell you this from the owner, from the visioner's point of view, is that yesterday it was very quiet. We had 1 or 2 people popping into the company to do some overtime. They're self-directed. They know what they're doing. And I got to sit here from 4 a.m. till 1 p.m. and do my visioning spreadsheets, all my little thought experiments, all this and that. And that's my time. If we had crews out there, if we had the full company working, there'd be a lot of slack attack. We'd be out there. I'd be on site visiting at least one site. One of the biggest benefits to this is freedom. The freedom to choose or not to choose something on a Friday. Technically, I don't have to work Fridays. I could just shut my computer off and wander around looking at trees and stuff on Fridays. I have the freedom to choose to work if I want to Friday. So often you'll see me, maybe I'll bump into the shop and do some experiments. Maybe I'll sit here and do 9 hours of spreadsheets, the things that I want to do. Maybe I'll work on the next phase of the business. Maybe we'll experiment with a new concept, a new scheduling process, a thing like that. But it's the freedom to choose or not to choose that's a big thing for me. And that is something that you cannot always write in a spreadsheet as a benefit, but freedom is the ultimate benefit of this stuff. Having this stuff taken off of you and giving you the ability to choose or not to choose something is different. Remember, the ultimate version of this is between 10 years old and 18 years old, I was forced to work in a painting business, and I did not like it because I was forced to. That I chose to do it, and it was glorious. So that's the difference of freedom. I was doing the same thing in the same town with the same people. So. Oh, Westchester County, New York. How's it going in Minnesota? It's going very well. Do you have any guidelines on probation period for new hires? That's up to you. So basically, that old adage of hire slow, fire fast applies. You need to have deliverables in your company. You need to have something on paper that people know. If they don't do this, they're not going to have a job here. If it's just one of those things, hey, you're going to hire, you're going to come on this company, we're going to do stuff together. They don't know what these policies are if they're not written down. So I will always say, everybody's on a probation period. I'm on a probation period. If all of a sudden I flake out and I'm not being attentive to the business, I'm gone all the time, I'm not delivering the things that I need to deliver to the company, the payroll's being late, I'm not out there selling jobs, guess what? That's my probation period. I fired myself and all my employees are going to quit. So I will say everybody's on a probation period all the time. But if you find good enough people, that probation period ends very quickly because they're just one of you. They share your core values and things like that. So, let's see. Brian, any recommendations for an on-site portable spray booth, air scrubbers, movers, filtration? We do, so obviously you have to spray in people's houses, but we don't spray cabinet doors in houses. We take them back to our shop. The best thing you can do is zip pulls or any version of those things. Trimaco makes them, zip wall, zip pull, things like that. Cordon off an area in the house, floor protection. Air scrubbers, there's tons of those things you can just buy that are units, somewhere between $700 and $1,000, whatever. It's a fan, it's a filter. I just go to an industrial supply place and we buy those big circular fans. They're either yellow or orange, and those are great air move. And honestly, folks, the people fixate on this filtration and things like that. Honestly, The most important thing about a job site, let's say you're doing just a kitchen, is to evacuate the air, the odor, the dust in there. And sometimes it doesn't matter. We put a filter on those things just so we don't shoot wet oil primer onto somebody's deck or outside the house and the wind catches it and it hits the side of the house or something to stop the particles. But honestly, it's way more important to take one of those fans, take that flexible ductwork, run it through the job site and out a window, but then also on the other side of the job site, crack some of the plastic or a window to get fresh air in. This is negative air. So basically you're taking fresh air in, bad air out, and you're changing over that air in the site. And that gets rid of dust and odors and all that other good stuff. So we just, again, simple stuff. All right. Your apprenticeship program is in overdrive from PCA. Sort of. Here's the problem. People say, send me your apprenticeship program. It is 90% human-to-human contact and teaching in a structured way, and 10% are stuff that's written down. You guys have my SOPs. I give those out for free all the time. Bolinos, you guys probably have those. All you have to do is search for Doragi, D-O-R-A-G-I, use my SOP, follow that Doragi system, and then combine those things and then demonstrate, observe, re-demonstrate that whole Doragi thing for each step of that thing. So I wish there was a magic set of videos or manuals I could send you guys, but honestly, just search for Ask a Painter Apprentice, any of that stuff, and or Nick Slavik Apprentice, and you'll find most of that stuff there. Oh, Phil, my friend from Iowa, who we graciously allowed in the gathering of Minnesota painters, even though he's an Iowegian. But he's such a good guy. We could not do that. So he'd try and scuff tough right now. All right, more tough scuff stuff. Metal building system, Procryl primer, 2 coats of Surecryl. Yes, good system. Good system. Okay, Ryan, talking about treads. Honestly, this may be a weird thing. Maybe it's weird or not, but honestly, I've had some of the best luck with porch and floor enamel, water-based satin porch and floor enamel. There's Treadplex. There's a whole bunch of other stuff like that. But honestly, that's some of the best stuff I've had luck with yet. So, Terrence, happy Saturday to you as well. Jeff Peach, good morning. Jamie Ness. Can you recommend a checklist order of operation for residential exterior repaint? Yes, I can. Yeah, let's get this guy in here. So I actually detailed this last year when I was painting the outside of my house about at this time. So if you search for Ask a Painter, exterior painting. If you search for hashtag Slavik House, exteriors, things like that, we have a 27-step process from putting in a yard sign to cleaning up the van. So basically just the basic exterior thing. It's not going to blow your guy's mind like this. It's all the common sense things. I just wrote it down and we trained for it. Again, Doragi, that sort of thing. So Evan, good morning from Texas. Let's see. Shane. I currently use oil for my cabinets and trim and doing new construction, but would love to switch to water base. I use oil because of how it hangs and can lay in the material. Yeah, it's all great, man. Just try it. Because you have experience with oil, you will appreciate Scuffex and things like that. Emerald trim urethane does the same thing. Scuffex is great. Just, yeah. If you try it once, it'll snap a lot of things into focus. You'll exactly feel and understand what that product is and how it does it. So I would urge you to give it a try, especially in new construction. We're not offered a lot of new construction sites or big house remodels where there's not other people with saws walking around. So that's the reason we don't use oil. That stuff stays tacky too long for us for most of those job sites. So, all right, David Delgado. Any issues with paint shortages? Interestingly enough, I was in Ohio getting training when my paint rep called and said, hey, Nick, we might be getting some paint shortages. So again, we are problem solvers. There is millions of different paints that you can use out there. So basically we said, okay, here's our preferred products. You know that there's 2 things that might be interrupted. Now what? Now we do first order of operation. Option for something else, then the second, then the third. And when we got into this stuff, we looked at the supplies of this. My guy actually looked up supplies on his computer within Sherwin, and we basically made plans that Yeah, we might have to change a product here or there, but we're not going to run out of paint. There are millions of gallons of paint sitting around Minnesota right now. We can find something. Now, as a favor to him, I wanted to keep my business with him, so we did that. Otherwise, I could have went to any number of suppliers and just said, yeah, I use stuff from everybody. I'll just use that stuff. So yes, supposedly there's going to be paint shortages, but the way I understand it is the ice storms in Texas caused a supply disruption, and we should kind of be over it now. We haven't been affected. We've prepared for it. We've been warned for it. We did not stockpile. We're not into that. I don't do that whole buy up all the toilet paper kind of stuff because there's 1,000 other options for us out there. So, yeah. All right. Let's go back to IG now. Let's see here. Oh, man. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This is awesome. Yeah, paint school. You watch me do it. We do it together. I watch you. You do it alone. Yes, that is a good method, paint school. Also, throw in there, set a goal, and hold people accountable. Bresson, Europeans can get fine paints. It's just a different label. Yeah, that's probably most likely. I know they make it in the Netherlands over there. HVLP or airless for spraying cabinets, 100% airless. The downside of HVLP, and I have all of them. I actually took them all out of storage and we lined them up in our shop above our crew lockers there. And it's like it's like a history of HVLPs. I have some back from like the 80s. I have my father's from probably the 80s or 90s. I have the machines that I've used. Every brand, every configuration of turbines, things like that. They're awesome units, just not for what we do. The primers and the paints that we use for trimming cabinets are fairly thick. I'm not a fan of thinning, even though we do thin our oil primer 10%. But I'm not a fan of thinning. So some of these HVLPs, the downside of it, like if you want to run emerald trim urethane through an HVLP, you kind of got to step on that stuff with some water or some reducer or things like that. And I am not a big fan of that because you start messing with the chemistry of that paint. And somebody had written a question in one of the cabinet painting groups, I think this last week, where they're saying, hey, how far can I thin something? And I actually had some data. I get into my shop every winter and experiment. And 2 years ago, I believe it was, I experimented with our primers on how far I could thin them before they lost their adhesion properties, stain blocking, and sandability properties. They didn't lose sandability. In fact, they got easier to sand the more you thin them because you're diluting that resin. After about 20% thinning, the test I did on cabinet doors, scratch tests and things, started showing that they did not adhere as well, and they did not start doing the stain blocking that they were supposed to. So I see some people saying, 50% water, 50% this as a first coat, or 40%, 30% this and that. That's kind of not paint anymore. That's something else. And you're messing with the chemistry of that stuff. So the problem is you have to thin that stuff down because they aren't powerful enough to atomize that stuff. So airless will do that all day long. And that's what we use. People have this head trash about being scared about airless because it's high pressure. It shoots a lot of paint. If you use that, if you use airless, you will not go back ever. That's my experience. And my understanding, there's a better European paint. Okay, still talking about that stuff. Oh, man. Obrigado to my friends down in Brazil. Bom dia. I love you guys interacting. We use water-based to spray trim. House not big enough to spray oil-based paints. One thing you got to consider about any solvent-based stuff is something that we've created an SOP around is hot water heaters and their flammable vapor detectors. So there's a flammable vapor detector on most modern hot water heaters and some other appliances, because a hot water heater is that big barrel in the basement that heats up your water, and on the bottom of it is a flame. If you were to get flammable vapors in your house, like let's say you turn the stove on, a lot of that gas, or if you were to spill gasoline in a corner of the basement, those vapors are heavy and they sink along the floor and then they can ignite. Same thing with like oil primers, varnishes. If we're doing like a 6,000 square foot new construction and they have one of these in the basement already up and running like that, we'll actually prep the sensor off or turn the hot water heater off, protect the sensor, and then turn it all back on after. The downside is we've done this before in the past. This is a newer thing too in modern hot water heaters. Maybe 3 years ago was our first one where we sprayed oil primer in this house, the whole house for the trim. And then, of course, we leave on a Friday night, Noah Cantor, we leave on a Friday night we leave the client in a good position. And Friday night, Saturday morning, the client will call and say, we have no hot water. What do you guys do here? And it's like, well, I don't know. We didn't even use your water. Turns out we kicked the flammable vapor sensor on that thing. It costs $200 for a plumber to replace it, but it's the inconvenience of that client has no hot water and it's an emergency. You don't build trust with them doing that. So it's just one of those things. It's an interesting thing. All right, fresh paint, slow. What is cross-linking and what does it do in coatings? So here's the problem. Most people that apply those newer age 2K, 1K things that use cross-linkers and the such cannot tell you what it actually does. There's very few paint companies that can even tell you what it does. So years ago, I went to the Lenmar factory over in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. They make all sorts of lacquers and stuff. It's sort of Benjamin Moore's wing of, clear wood finishes, lacquers. I went to the lacquer factory, and for about 2 or 3 days, we did some super deep training into lacquers, all the systems, the processes, this and that. I met one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. The owner of that company is a PhD chemist. We're talking molecules, stick and ball models, deep chemistry, understandings, things like that. And I got the pleasure of sitting down at dinners each night with him, and we went nuts. He made me stick and ball models of oil varnish, lacquer, water-based paint, oil primers, things like that. It informed my master's classes. When I travel around the country giving master's classes about cabinet and trim, varnishing, enameling, shellacs, this and that, I have a deep understanding from this person. And what made it most interesting is that for 30 years, I've been doing this stuff. I've experimented with everything. All these feelings I have floating around in my body, like why when you put shellac on the outside of a front door, does it peel off right away? And why does it not do it inside? Why does oil varnish or why does spar urethane or spar varnish not do that? Why does it work so well? Why does oil primer stick to things better than water-based primer and this and that? The molecules are different. He gave me a deep understanding about this. Once every year or so, I get on a call with this person and I have more questions about this stuff. And he fills me in on this. So I have this beautiful little insight into all these feelings. I've matched data with feelings. All the things that I just said about shellac on a front door, oil primer sticking to things, even steel and finishes and stuff like, or varnish, he bore out with actual science. That is such a privilege to combine these. Oh, so that's why for 30 years this has been happening. This is the science behind it. Beautiful. I can't get a lot of very clear answers about what all this stuff does. It probably cross-links, but not in the way you think of it. You'd be very hard-pressed to find somebody that could give you a working knowledge of this sort of thing. So I would say, do your tests. The best thing you can do is get your data, your feelings. I would absolutely get a bunch of cabinet doors. I would reduce some. I would not reduce some. I would cross-link some. I would not cross-link some. I would thicken some. I would not do that. And I would put them through all the paces of scratch tests, dry times, recoat times, things like that, because you might be lucky enough to find somebody who can give you the practical knowledge of how those work, but you're probably on your own. And so I would take it upon yourself to just figure it out on your own. What oil-based paint or what oil-based primer used before Scuffex? Yes, cover stain. Cover stain. All right. Oh, great show. Thank you. Hey, Nick. Have you tried the new Benjamin Moore Command? I enjoy Scuffex as well. No, haven't tried the Command yet. That's one of those things where it is spring, it's heating up. We're actually getting 10 requests a day for estimates from my company. I do not have time right now to hop in the shop and test. I assume it's a great product, probably not dissimilar to Scuffex. Maybe this next winter, I will give some a try unless somebody's nice enough to drop some off at my shop. So, CMAS. What? Airless over HVLP? I'm listening. If you have not tried airless, try it. A lot of things will come into focus when you do that. Also, With an airless sprayer, you can spray industrial coatings. You can spray the outside of a house, inside of a house. You can do dry fall in a car dealership. You can apply that SureCrill HBA to a tin shed outside. You can apply the finest interior finishes all with one sprayer, and they last forever. Sure do. And then the finish is dusty. This is why I now use air assisted for most of my finishing projects. No reduction. Absolutely. Air assisted airless is a whole nother animal out there. Okay, let's see what we got here. Me Grigo. Usage on interior oil, finish oil-based paint in some states is forbidden. Yes, agree. Allow you to buy quarts and gallons. Am I wrong? Isn't latex hybrid? Yeah. Okay, so in Minnesota, we can still get all that oil. In fact, we can still get some of that old school stripper, methylene chloride, or MC stripper. Yep, we can still get some of that somewhere. Won't be able to get it forever. If oil-based primer disappeared today, I would go to a hybrid primer. Every major manufacturer has it. It's an oil-water hybrid, and it will block stains. It will adhere. The only downside is they take a while to dry. It's not like cover stain there. So I would that's what I would go to if I had to. What airless machine do you prefer? They're all good, guys. It doesn't matter. We're living in the Silicon Valley of paint sprayers here. An hour away is the world headquarters for Wagner, for Titan, and for Graco. We are blessed with those beautiful, benevolent companies right here. You will not go wrong with any of their products there. I have them all. You can go in my shop right now. We got 15, 20 sprayers there. Everything you can imagine. It all works if you clean it out well. All right, Bresson, can you run down a quick list of SOPs that a paint company should start with? Oh, man. Yes. Let me get into here. So it's going to be easy. What do you paint? Here's the things we do. We paint walls, we paint trim, we paint cabinets, we paint ceilings. Those are 4 great interior ones to have. After that, they're weird and esoteric. For exteriors, I would say there's a wood thing. There's a different prep procedure for wood. But basically after that, your exterior SOP is basically the same. My exterior SOP is not so specific that we say, here's for 80s Masonite, here's for 90s hardy board, here's for brand new LP. To me, it's all the same. There's segments of a standard operating procedure for exterior. They're all the same. If there's a failed coating, you have to deal with it, either remove it or remedy it. Once that is done, then you apply 2 coats of paint. And in the remedying, you remove it, and our basic SOP is if there's a failed coating, do something with it. Prime any bare spots with the appropriate primer, 2 top coats. Moving on. Our deck SOP is great too, because there's actually a lot of chemistry in that sort of thing. So we have all the brightener, strippers, all the mixes and things. So that's good to have too. But what you paint is basically what you should have. So I'm going to pull up SOPs. I'm going to run through a quick list because there's business SOPs as well too. This is my special little folder that I share with people to help other painting companies. And we'll go to SOPs, and there is a lot of them. So it can be as simple as up here, we have basic tools and equipment and sundries too. We have an infographic of those just so it's all standardized. Cabinet enameling, ceiling painting, deck prep, exterior. We even have a garage door one. That's getting pretty esoteric. A sprayer, getting paint in, getting paint out, and cleaning. We have a sprayer cheat sheet. We have how to make an SOP. We have trim, and we have walls. If you have the basics like that, you're going to do just fine. It's going to be great. But don't go crazy with this stuff, because all this stuff written down is useless unless you train to it and hold people accountable to it. So let's go through a couple more IGs, and we'll hop back to Facebook. Most important SOPs for accountability. Yes. So accountability, SOPs do not hold people accountable. People hold people accountable. It's kind of like that old gun thing. So write your SOPs, throw them in a drawer, never deal with them. They're useless. You have to train to that SOP so you can then hold somebody accountable to it. If you make an SOP, hand it to somebody, and then yell at them because they don't do it, you have not trained them. You need to train them to it in order to hold them accountable to it. So what kind of coffee do you drink? Yes. So one of the missions in my life over the next year or two is to simplify a lot of the things in my life. So I will simplify my clothing, I will simplify my food, and I will simplify even like coffee. So I go Starbucks Pike Place in a Keurig. And then once in a while, I have 2 cups every day. My first one is normally just straight black. I sit at the computer in the dark and do work. The second one, I usually step on it with something. And my wife is always gracious enough to have something to mix into coffee in the fridge. I just grab whatever's there, put a tiny little dab in it, just so it's not straight coffee again for the second one. You basically still straight coffee. So yeah, I don't know. It's just got a little bit of unsweetened coconut milk in there this morning because that's what was in my fridge. So yeah, that's good. I want to see those models. That's awesome. Oh yes, Bresson, we can talk offline. So can you do a live with this person? Actually, you know what? My estimator and master crafts person, Andy, yesterday just suggested I do that. That would be a good one. It goes deep into geek science though. I want to meet the guy. Have you ever tried PPG Breakthrough and any thoughts? Yes, years ago. It was a great paint. It's good. The problem is the nearest PPG store for me is an hour away and there's not many of them. So again, we have to think logistics and pricing and things like that. So fine paint. So, okay, let's go back to Facebook here, see what we got. Oh, current, my local SW is currently out of. Yeah, I've heard that over the country here. No shortages in Texas. Oh, that's interesting because I think Texas is where this all started. Evan Boy, describe a spray techniques for spraying interior louvered shutters. People have a lot of head trash about these plantation shutters, louvered shutters. Honestly, this is what you do, folks. The best thing you can do for them is get them on some hooks, hang them up, put the louvers one way, super light mist coat over the whole thing. Let it dry, louvers the other way, super light mist coat over there. Rotate them in between so they still move. Just don't go crazy with the paint. If you put paint on too heavy in these things, they're going to gum up and not work. You also want it to dry quickly. The type of paint you use as well. There's coatings like emerald trim urethane and Scuff-X that actually have a little Teflon-y feel to them that will allow them to work a little better. A lot of the times, if you use like an oil or an oil top coat or even a latex, just think like a water-based trim enamel. It's still soft and gummy, and if something sits there for a while, it's kind of going to stick. So use something that's quick dry and just light coats over and over again. So. Charlie, what's your process for attracting and keeping A-grade employees? Yeah, do your best. The best I can tell is be a good person yourself, have a company worthy of them, be able to pay them, be able to provide benefits to them, provide them work year round, do all the things a good boss should do. And then you just have to put it out into the universe that you are looking for them. So if you have a great company and you put out there that you just need experience, lift 50 pounds, non-smoking driver's license, that's what you're going to get. That's a very low bar. So as far as I can tell, this is not a perfect science. And the best advice I could give you is to be reiterative, which means cycle through. You will not be able to tell a lot of the times if people are a good fit because you're going to basically talk to them on the phone, maybe meet them in person. That's a very tough way to judge people. People perform way differently in your company than they do without your company when they're trying to get a job. So I would tell you this may seem heartless and cruel, but it is not. It's for their good too. Hire a bunch of people, get rid of them right away if they don't meet your standards, be kind, never burn a bridge, and this is a business. This is a paint business. Don't take anything personally. If they don't fit in your business, maybe they were never going to be a painter. That's fine. But if you cycle through, you'll find those gems in there. You'll find those good people who do share your core values. You really want to attach to them. You want to take care of them, form a personal connection, and show them, inspire them that there is a thing in this that we can do the rest of our lives that will create this freedom that we talked about before. And freedom is the ultimate. So, all right. I searched exterior Slavik house on Google and Facebook and didn't find a tutorial for exterior repaints. Listen, you guys got to do some Googling here. If you hashtag Slavik house, I paint the outside of this house over a 2-part series where I show you my SOP. I even paint stuff for you. So again, please do not a Google search. You got to get on Facebook. You got to get on YouTube and you got to get in there within Facebook, within YouTube, and search for those. They are all there. If you guys spend time, you're going to have to spend at least 3 minutes. If you spent 3 minutes and find no exterior painting videos from me, email me, nick@nickslavik.com, and I will connect you. Let's see. Any issues with your staff actually put in 410s? We had to switch, had a tough time with clients not wanting us in the homes at 7 to 6, looking to switch back to summer. No, we're upfront and honest with our clients. We go 7 to 5 though. So we just brief our clients. And in fact, part of the things we tell our clients is, the reason we did this is so that our people can spend more time with family and friends. And a lot of our clients actually praise us for that. It's a good thing. So vent the structure to remove the vapors. Positive pressure will aid in the time removal of harmful vapors. Yes. Sean. Good morning, Nick. Another great show. In Canada, Scuffex satin is called Pearl. Oh, nice. Not sure why BM changes the name of machines on different. It's just one of those weird things, man. I see that all the time. It's such a goofy thing. Even regionalities have different things going on once in a while. So, all right, folks. Well, oh, Bressa, Nick's viewer count is rigged. I'm doing my phone and computer. Oh man, I'm getting double view count for that. That's awesome. So, okay, folks, it is 9 a.m. This has been a great show. I love these open shows because we can talk about anything. I only got to one thing on my list because you guys are awesome and we had questions. So thank you everybody for this. I love Saturday mornings with everybody. This is such a cool thing. We are in the final stages of getting my shop up and running. They're pouring a pad for the new heater there. The spray booth is being there. Once we get that going, I have beautiful fiber optic 5K whatever internet in there, and I will start broadcasting from there once in a while. We'll start actually painting some stuff. It's going to be nice. It's going to be a good exterior weather coming up here. We're going to go through all that. Look forward to the everything you've ever wanted to know about deck finishing show. That's a thing I do every spring. I like to refresh that. After that, guys, thank you. This means the world to me that you guys would do this stuff every Saturday morning with me. So until next week, I do appreciate it, guys. Look up the PCA. We are getting back together, folks. If you've never been to a forum, residential, commercial, craftsmanship forum, if you've never been to Expo, sweet Jesus, get out there and put that on your calendar. These are substantial events. I'll also be resuming in-person events in May. We have 3 on the books right now. I'll be traveling, more to follow as those get set. There's also Ask a Painter live retreats this year. There's a summer retreat in the wilderness of northern Minnesota, and there will be a winter retreat in the wilderness of Minnesota for heavy hitters who really want to make some changes in the industry. So, all right, folks, have a good weekend. Look up the PCA. Thank you for all this, and we'll see you guys next week.